Events between 1906 and 1914. Birth of the Muslim League. The Muslim League was founded in 1906 under the leadership of Salimullah Khan and Aga Khan, the Nawab of Dhaka. The League grew due to the encouragement given by the British to the Muslims so that they could be won over to their side, keeping in line with their policy of divide and rule. Morley-minto reforms. The British tried to placate the moderates by passing the Indian Councils Act of 1909, also known as Morley-minto reforms. The Act increased the number of elected members in the Imperial Legislative Council so that they were at par with the English. The number of members in the provincial councils were also increased. The Act also introduced separate electorates for the Muslim, which meant that there would be separate constituencies for the Hindus and Muslims. The Hindus could vote only for Hindu candidates. This was done in the name of protecting the Muslim minority. Declaration of King George V. Two important declarations were made in Delhi Darbar held in 1911 when King George V and Queen Mary visited India. The first was that the capital of British India would be shifted from Calcutta to Delhi, and the other was the revoking of the partition of Bengal. Home Rule Movement. During the First World War, 1914 to 1918, the Congress cooperated with the British war efforts. Huge number of Indian soldiers were sent overseas to fight for the British. This caused widespread economic distress because of severe scarcity of goods and a steep rise in prices. Some Indian businessmen and industrialists made huge profit through trading in war supplies. In 1915 to 1916, Tilak and Annie Besant organized the Home Rule League. The Home Rule League wanted self-government in India after the World War. Annie Besant was arrested but was soon released due to public agitation condemning her arrest. The nationalists now fully realized that the British government was taking full advantage of the disunity among them. The Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916 was historic on two accounts. 1. The moderates and radicals decided to come together and put up a united front. 2. The Congress and Muslim League sank their differences and fought the government on a common platform, presenting common political demands before the government. Lokmanya Tilak played an important role in bringing the two groups together. The unity between moderates and radicals on one hand and the Congress and the Muslim League on the other gave an added impetus to our national movement. Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms 1919. To pacify the nationalists after the First World War, the government announced the Government of India Act of 1919, also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms. The main provisions of this act were: 1. The Legislative Council at the centre was made bicameral, having two houses, the Legislative Assembly and the Council of State. The majority of the members were now elected. However, the right to vote was not universal. It was given only to those who possessed property. 2. A system of government called diarchy was introduced in the provinces. The subjects of the provincial government were divided into two parts, the reserved and the transferred. Important subjects like finance and law and order were reserved subjects in the hands of the governor, which he addressed with the help of the council, whereas the transferred subjects like health and education were administered with the help of members from the legislature who were Indians. But their views and opinions could be overruled. The real subjects were the more important ones, and hence the real powers were still in the hands of the British and not with the Indians. The act fell much below the expectations of the people. The Indians were not at all satisfied, and their disillusionment led to protest movements all over the country. To control the growing restlessness, the British passed the Rowlatt Act in 1919. The act authorized the government to imprison any person without trial or conviction in a court of law. Special courts would try people where there would be no provision for the right to appeal. This was indirect contravention of democratic principles and further aroused the anger of the masses, increasing the unrest in the country. Gandhian Era. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869 at Porbandar in Kathiawar Peninsula in India. He got married to Kasturba at the age of 13. He went to study law in England and then proceeded to work for a firm in South Africa. On reaching South Africa, he was appalled at the living conditions and discrimination meted out to Indians. He set upon the task of improving their conditions and developed the techniques of satyagraha based on non-violence or ahimsa. This technique proved very successful in fighting the tyranny of South African government. He came to India in 1915, plunged into the freedom struggle against British colonial oppression. Early campaigns. Gandhiji taught his followers the twin ideals of truth and non-violence. According to Gandhiji, non-violence was not a weapon of weak and cowardly. Only the brave and strong could practice it. Gandhiji's novel method of resistance made the world sit up and listen to him. He established the Sabarmati Ashram at Ahmedabad and organized successful satyagraha campaigns for the cause of indigo cultivators of Champaran, the mill workers of Ahmedabad, and the peasants of Kheda. These campaigns earned him the respect of the countrymen. Gandhiji combined political agitation with a continuous campaign against social evils. As a result of Gandhiji's success, the common people began to see him as a savior who had been sent to rid them of their woes.